Does the Texas legislature believe that it has put its backing behind the specific scheme reflected in the Texas annotated legal codes through Vernon's? That is not only cited in opinions of the attorneys general, at least two opinions I've seen, at least one that's referenced two different sections of Texas Vernon's legal code, and which for the last 3 years has provided a systematology effectuating the programming. It goes into access to public resources associated with the pension system. Does the state of Texas, under its constitutional authority as vested through the legislature and approved by the government, as well as acknowledged by and acted upon by the judicial branch, believe that it has actually officially provided for the authority of the scheme that is evident in the Vernon's annotated legal codes that it publishes annually and updates annually. And insofar as that's the case, when I requested a court martial involving the three retired justices of the Supreme Court of the United States in consideration of what I understood to be an act of terrorism and a failure and refusal, specifically of the state of Texas, to engage in what would be necessary to de escalate it, did they interfere and visit reprisal on and effectuate the execution of Justice Ginsburg, specifically concerning the manner in which she presented her dissenting opinion in Georgia et al. Petitioners versus Public Resource Org, Inc. The reason I say this is because she says right as she starts, the core question this case presents, as I see it, are the annotations in the official code of Georgia annotated done in a legislative capacity? The answer, I am persuaded, should be no. Well, what if you believe? Did the legislator of Texas believe? Yes, it is. It's in our capacity, and they ended up disabusing that request because at some point they also violated the state constitution as well as the federal constitution by illegally expropriating my political capital as well as my efforts at due process and stole my legal filings, turned them into weapons, and then tried to cover it up because there's actually such a seditious effort afoot, specifically involving the Texas legislature, that they believed that they had the capacity and the authority to do that. I.e., for the second time in 5 years, the state of Texas effectuated the assassination of a Supreme Court justice as their extrajudicial manner in which to demonstrate their authority superseded the constitutional authority of a Supreme Court justice in issuing a dissenting opinion. See, if you have a dissent and then things end up moving forward, one thing the dissent does is allow for a foundation to challenge misrepresentations of constitutional policy or constitutional provisions later down the road as new evidence and new challenges become apparent and are actually engaged. If there's a conspiracy to suppress or to steal efforts at due process that would actually bring up relevant constitutional challenges in a manner that would allow for precedents to be set to preclude them from becoming constitutional crises. This would be evidence of the second time within 5 years that the state of Texas has conspired to assassinate a justice of the Supreme Court of the United States as a means by which to effectuate what? Is it ever constitutional for a state legislature to back an effort or through of state actors for a state of the United States to allow for their authority to back an effort to effectuate an assassination of somebody, even in a request for court martial, because they disagree with the precedent that may have been set with a dissenting opinion? See, Texas definitely had a very vested interest in what the Supreme Court was doing on the day that this was published. I saw it, right? And I not only saw it, but I saw how federal district judges and the federal district court in here use my specific case in a complete repudiation of their own authority due to the manner in which they violated their own process to allow for a significant illicit financial act to occur that was posted on that Friday, cleared over the weekend, and then was delivered in whatever they did concurrent to the publication of these opinions. It was very specific and precise. Now, I'm reading this now, and it does not reflect exactly the same as I remember at the time. Specifically, what I recall at the time is it had to do with a health insurance situation on one hand, and then it had to do with another opinion concerning firearms. I did not read this one at the time. Is this the one that Texas thought that it would go ahead and work? Because let me say this right now. How many policies have been engaged by states and municipalities during this alleged COVID-19 crisis that could not only present constitutional challenges, but could actually provide for a foundation for consideration of criminal conspiracies involving states and state actors associated with those states to intentionally violate the Constitution in commission of criminal activities, right? Then the question of, are they setting these policies, and would they be trying to create them as a proprietary process, perhaps one that could be used for a product that could be sold, or in consideration of other things that could be copyrighted, up to and included in a weaponized manner? And if there is precedent, especially substantiation in a dissenting opinion that could be used to later challenge this constitutionally in court, this is again another example of my allegation that what has been done is that similar to what happened with Antonin Scalia, that the state of Texas engaged in an act of assassination of the Supreme Court justice as a means by which to deter people from acting on the specific information that was available based upon his record as a justice, and also to attempt to effectuate a cessation of any process that might have been pre-established or that might have already been in effect that could have provided a constitutional bulwark against the continued perpetuation of their criminal activity. I'm just saying, that's what this is saying to me right now. If there was a specific motive that might fit a pattern, this would appear to fit the qualifications. I haven't read it all. I'm not going to read it all right now. But that does seem to be the consideration. And then the question has to become, well, is this connected to a conspiracy to acquire a more politically satisfactory recapitulation of Supreme Court comportment with the rushed confirmation of the newest justice of the Supreme Court? I'm just saying, it would have behooved her to stand down until these factors had been appropriately evaluated and had been appropriately addressed. But that didn't happen, did it? So now we're in a situation where 3 consecutive Supreme Court justices have been allowed to go through a confirmation proceeding that had national security implications and that were not appropriately vetted, especially in consideration of the criminal activity that went into the process by which the opening was created, such that they could be put into a position to attempt to receive confirmation of an appointment. That's more than a third of the active Supreme Court.